we know everybody that's on right now, so welcome. And Jan and I are here to give you some ideas that maybe you've already used and but maybe brush up on, and just ideas to help out. So here we go. Jan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jan Turbes, and I have been involved with kids with autism my entire career. I was a classroom teacher for 10 years, and then I worked for the AEA for the last 35 years. So count those numbers up and you'll get how old I am. The majority of the work that I've done through the AEA has been working with kids with autism, and then adding on that component of challenging behavior, and then just of late doing the behavior health. So we know that a lot of things are involved with all of those. I also am a facilitator for social smarts groups for the Peer Center for Autism, 5 sessions a week. So that's another thing that I absolutely love, because it gets me the opportunity to actually work with the kids and the families. So I'm glad to be here, and it's so nice to be able to be with Sue again, my colleague and friend. So go ahead, Sue.
And I'm Sue Askeland. I'm retired right now, but I can't seem to stop working. Jan and I worked for years together at Northwest AEA in Sioux City on the autism team there. And I moved over to the eastern part of the state in 2017 and worked at Grantwood AEA on the autism team. So we've had a lot of years of working with kids with autism and families, and it's been a passion for both of us. Mm-hmm. Right now, I also facilitate a couple of Zoom groups. We have a grandparent Zoom group that meets monthly on the last Tuesday of every month. We have Chris and I facilitate a high school group that meets weekly on Wednesday nights, and a young self-advocate group that meets on the last Sunday of every month. And all the links for all of those groups can be found on the Autism Society of Iowa website. So if you're interested in joining, please check out that website. Or Jen and I both have our emails here on the first slide. So if you have any questions afterwards, or as you watch this later on, please feel free to email either one of us, and we will try to help you figure out the answer. Okay, we're going to get started. If there are questions as we go along about something particular on the slide, please feel free to put it in the chat room, and Chris is monitoring that for us. Okay.
I get, just to begin with, we were talking about what kind of talks could we do as the board, the autism board, for April. And one was how to help structure at home during the pandemic, and the visual, helping kids with visual strategies. And a mom on the board said, man, I don't want to wait till April. Could you guys do it beforehand? So that's why we're doing things in February. And I know some of you are going back face to face, but this will help when you're doing homework, if you're still continuing to do virtual due to other medical concerns, or anything that you're doing in your home. We really believe that this can help. And so what we're going to do is have you have an opportunity at the end to ask questions also. And if you think of things later on, you can email Sue and I, and we'll talk about that at the very end. And we will be having another one of these in a couple weeks. So the things that you're going to be learning about today are keeping kids engaged. I think that's the biggest thing that we hear from families and from teachers, and the kind of strategies that maybe you can use. The things that we will be going over and showing you some visuals of, making things that are very clear. The research on exercise, talking about reinforcements, what's reinforcing to the kids, having enough structure during the day, and giving choice making. So those are the things that you're going to hear about.
I'm going to talk a little bit at the beginning about the learning spaces. And by now, many of you have already developed a learning space in your home, if that's where you're at. So there's just a lot of things. And through the structured teaching program, this is where we start. We start with getting a space that kids can work in, that's conducive to their learning and meets sensory needs and meets helps them to stay organized and focused on what they're doing. So there's a couple of pictures out here that show a dad working at home. So there's a kind of a two-way learning and then an independent learning session here. And this one with the blinders, I'll call them blinders, but whatever they are, it's a nicely organized. The calendar's up there. She's got her schedule on one side of her, a little baggie that's to put her pens and pencils in. There's not a lot of clutter around there. She's using her headphones to help stay focused. And she's got some little, I can't really read what it says. Oh, little sayings on those stars that kind of help her be motivated, and her name's there. So it wouldn't take a lot. I don't know how they created that. You could do it with a piece of cardboard or whatever, but it's a nice workspace area.
Mm-hmm. And the thing to note about this picture is there's two different spaces. And one is that if you're going to be working with your own child and they know that they're going to need instruction in something, it would be nice to be able to have a real visual of that. So if I sit on one end of the table, that means that I'm going to be helping you with something. Where in the independent, that should be stuff that they already know how to do. That's really an important piece to the structure of this, and might seem like, oh, we don't need to do that, but it does help. It really does help them know, okay, when I come over here and I sit in this chair, that means that I'm going to be trying to teach you something, because we know not only kids on the spectrum, but other neurotypical kids too, if they're having help from their parent, sometimes they don't want that. It's like, no, I know how to do that already. But you're giving them that cue and just some visuals of, it's time for me to help you.
Any questions there about that slide?
Or comments, you can comment.
Or comments, yep. Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest things I've been hearing lately about learning from home with the computers, because there's a lot of glitches with the computers, which is causing a lot of frustration for not only the kids, but for parents as well, because many parents don't have the technical skills. So that is one area that's probably one to kind of just always be aware of. And if they are at independent learning time, you may have to step in, but have a way for that student to know that they can ask for help, even if they're in that independent learning time. So, and then hopefully you can help them with their tech problem. We don't know how to get you the help, but you can help them.
Right.
Okay.
These are things that you need to really look at when we're trying to have a good home learning space. And I'm just going to kind of go through those. Is your child an active one? Do they like sitting for long periods of time? My guess is the kids that we've had experience with and know families, no, they don't like to sit for long periods of time. Can they sit for long periods of time on their video games? Yeah, probably. But if this is something that they're asked to do in reading or English or language arts or whatever, sometimes it's very, very hard. So we're going to show you some ways to help structure that up. Does your child like quiet places, or do they like sound engagement with soft music? Again, this is all very individualized as far as what and how kids work and learn the best. Many of the kids might still want to wear their headphones because there's too much distraction, and it can be just you in the kitchen walking around to having some very soft music in the background. So again, what do they work best with? And sometimes the next one you really can't do a whole lot about, but what colors do they like? Are there things that they find exciting, like heroes or animals? And we're going to show you some reinforcement techniques or strategies that you could use using some of those high preferred. Do they need a lot of options and supplies close by, or are they able to, or better with less crowded space? So you saw on the previous slide, that little gal, that she had everything right there on her desk. That was pretty crowded. And I know that we have some kiddos that maybe work better at a table because there's less less room for it to be chaotic. So again, there needs to be a place for everything though. So if you have your pencils, have them in a pencil box or have them in a canister or whatever. So there needs to be a place for everything. We don't want things to be all messy. Otherwise it's really hard for them. Do you need a lot of options of supplies? And I guess that's what I just had mentioned. And as I was looking over at my pile to my right, I've got a pile of stuff. Organization is a really huge thing, and not only for kids with autism, but if you're listening to this and you have a child that has ADHD or other related disorders, you're going to find things that we're going to be talking about that'll be very helpful. Do they need seclusion to focus? Are they okay with open areas? Again, all depends upon your student. Maybe somebody can work great at the kitchen table, but somebody else will need a smaller space, maybe in a corner of of a certain room. So whatever you think would work it. And make it so that it's well lit. We don't want kids, that I've seen pictures of kids doing Zooms underneath a blanket in their bed. Probably not a good place. You want to make it personal, but you want it to be something that's actually going to be engaging for them when they're on a Zoom with a class or their teacher.
I want to also say that as much as you can, involving your child or student in the process of creating their space is also helpful, because giving kids choices and helping them be a part of what's going on makes it more motivational to them, I think. And also, this is a perfect time to work on organization. So to start teaching those skills of organization and how you do it and the process. Many times we just want to go ahead and like do it ourselves and make it look nice, but really involving your child in the process is a really good idea.
Because the whole idea is we want them to be independent and engaged.
Right. This is just an example of a work materials checklist that you could use to help your student make sure that on Monday or every day of the week that all those things are in their area, because especially Mondays, because you've had the weekend to get the whole area kind of disoriented or disorganized. So Sunday night or early Monday morning, make sure that they have all their supplies ready. Then make sure you have that fidget and that bottle of water handy too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another thing that is very helpful is if you can make things that work in folders. So if there's going to be their math work or whatever, put the work in the folders, and it's so easy to change out. You see that Stephen has his list on his little table, and the work in the folders could say, do these 5 math problems, pick up your room, read for 10 minutes. But he has, as you see there, he's got 3 different folders. So he does the purple one first, and then the blue one, and then the green one. And like I just said, it doesn't all have to be academic work. It can be things that you want him to do at home as a chore. And then reinforcement too. What happens after he gets that done? And then on this last one, which was in a school, it says, find a teacher to check your work. And then you could say, find your mom, or tell mom when you're finished with your work, or whoever is the person that's in charge. I know that we have some grandmas out there that are helping with schoolwork too. So.
And I think that although this has been a really different time for us, it has given an opportunity for parents to work at home with their kids on those chores at home. So picking up your room, although pick up your room needs a little more structure than pick up your room. So one idea that we've done in the past is take a picture of the clean room and then cut it in force or whatever and say this, or show them the picture. This is how your room should look. Cut it in force, do this part of your room, then this part of your room, just to make it more visual and make it less daunting of a task than to do. Pick up your room doesn't really make sense to some kids because you can't really lift it up and pick it up and take it somewhere. So
yeah, but on the other hand, I've worked with a family just recently that this young man is in high school and very bright kid. And I was trying to tell the mom, sometimes this isn't just for kids with autism. This can help with anyone, because that was the problem, was he wasn't picking up his room. And he would come up and he'd say, well, it is picked up. So my recommendation to her was put it down in writing. What does picked up look like? So Sue said, taking a picture. The other thing for kids that can read, here's what picks up look like. Your clothes are off the floor, they're in the basket. You know, the bed is made, the pillows are back on the bed. You know, whatever is really bothering you that wasn't done. Those are the kind of things that you need to add to those lists.
Yeah, and I'll concur with Jan. My 3 grandsons do not know how to pick up their rooms, and that is one of my tasks to get done during this time, is to get them organized. My favorite thing to say to them is start in this corner and move around the room. So keep some structure. Do they get distracted? You bet, but we're working on it. These are some, we're going to talk about some visual and auditory supports. So we know about visual supports, the yes, no. Alexa is one that's kind of come into play for some of the families that I've worked with, because you can set timers on Alexa. You can say to Alexa, set a timer for 10 minutes and let me know when it's my work time is up. Or there's just a lot of things you can do. So play around with some of these things, and it's a different way, a different input. Some kids will really like it. Some kids will try to change Alexa on you as well. So just be aware of that, but it's just something else that kids really like the technology. So bringing that into play with the visual is an idea to use.
We're going to give you some examples. So as far as visual tools and auditory tools, here's the reasoning behind it. So we use a lot of visuals, and that's something that we know that kids with autism, 99.9% of individuals on the spectrum are very visual learners. I'm not on the spectrum, but I'm a very visual learner. So I know these just fit right into the visuals that they promote understanding. Oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. It helps reduce that anxiety, reduce unexpected behaviors, because we know if kids don't know what's coming next, that's when we typically see behaviors. It increases communication, independence, and self-esteem. So if a child knows what they're supposed to do, what is expected, and when they're going to be finished with things, we know that they're going to feel better about themselves. Kids typically are going to have meltdowns, or they're going to throw their paper, or they're going to rip up things, or they're going to run from the room because they don't know what to do, or they don't know how to do it. So if we can make it as visual as possible, and we're going to show you some of those things, that will really help. As far as auditory supports, that provides another support, just like Sue was talking about with Alexa. You can say, remind me at whatever time to do this. And she can do that. You can use your, I use my watch a lot, or my phone a lot, to remind me about things. So that would be an auditory. It really just takes you as the teacher out of the equation. So you don't have to be the one that's always reminding them and making them prompt dependent on another person. We want to make sure that they're trying to be as independent as possible. And again, it just depends upon how old your son or daughter are. So can be unique and techie. Yeah, that Alexa. And we have a question from Tammy. How do you help the teacher to be more organized so you can help help your child with timer, schedules, and amount of work? Tammy, this is a fabulous, fabulous question. And actually I think in this, if they would watch this, I think that they're going to get some ideas from it. We were also looking at in April, I believe, Chris, having something for teachers on virtual teaching. So I know that teachers have learned a lot, but there's still some that need a lot of help. But I do believe, and you guys please chime in, if they use these kind of structures, they'll be much better. have a better outcome. And engagement. Engagement is the thing that I think most of the teachers are needing help with.
Tammy, can you turn your mic on for a second? We're just going to take a minute here.
Yes.
So hi, Tammy. Hey,
Hi.
what is it that your teacher, do you think she needs help with specifically?
He is not a very organized teacher, but he's good with the kids. I had him back when Blaine was a freshman, so that's been like 9-10 years ago. And he does very well with Mitchell. He listens to what I say, but he has a hard time setting things up. So like when I told him to just speak few words and direct words to Mitchell, that's what he does now. And he can get Mitchell back on task and do what he's supposed to. But it seems like almost every day the schedule changes. The only thing that stays about the same is the first class is at 8 o'clock. And then after that, it could be anytime. And so I have to listen every day to hear what time the next class is supposed to be that Mitchell needs to get on for. I tried to set up a schedule for that for Mitchell. I asked the teacher for times. He gave me from say 8 to 8:20. Well, when it went to 8:25, Mitchell had meltdowns. And the teacher said, yep, we're not even done yet. So I went and made a new one and took the ending time off. Yep. Mitchell wants to know how much he's supposed to do every day. That kind of changes. And each, even for the same class, instead of doing 4 words, today he only had to do 2. And so Mitchell complains to me, and I've told him, you need to ask your teacher. And so sometimes, again, today I was on Zoom with them, asking them questions, during the class time, because I don't know what's even expected. So I find it very hard for me to be able to help Mitchell.
Right.
Okay. We're going to talk about a strategy later on change, and that might help some things. So thank you for clarifying some of that. So thank you.
Uh-huh.
These are just some examples of different types of routines that you can set up. This one is the morning routine and bedtime routine. It basically, I think this is more for a preschooler, kindergarten one, but it gives a good idea about using pictures, using words, and using that reinforcement right there in the routine. It's good to try to keep things as consistent as we just heard from Tammy, that inconsistency can cause meltdowns. And it's a good idea to distinguish between the school days and the weekend and vacation days, especially during this time of at-home learning.
As far as choices, that's another really good thing. If you're able to do that, and it sounds like in the situation that we just were talking with a parent about, she's not able to do a choice board of when he wants to do things. But we know that there are certain situations where the kids are just given the work. Like I know in hybrid, the kids over here in Sioux City anyway, they would go 2 days a week and then they would be sent home with work. This is how you could use a choice board here, given choices that they know, okay, I know I have to do language arts, I have to do math, I have to do reading, and I have to do writing. And then the kids can go ahead and decide, which one do you want to do first? It doesn't matter because they have to get it done in the morning, but they can choose which one. So they're feeling like they have more control in what's going on, and it may reduce meltdowns. That's the whole idea of it. So, anything?
Just some other ideas of schedules. They don't have to be fancy. This one, get dressed, eat breakfast, do the back to the folder, do your red folder work, jumping jacks. It's just handwritten. And then what's nice about it, if the tasks are done by a certain time, then I can have 15 minutes of Lego time. So putting that reinforcement right there on the to-do list. The other one is one that is more designed for what's going on right now, making a system out of the school day. If you have a child though that goes by time, I would advise you not to put the times on there. Just to put a box or check off things so they follow in order, because some people are very sensitive to that time, and like Mitchell, if you go over or whatever, it's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Or you said it was going to be over at 8:25 and it wasn't, yeah. Right? And then you get into a whole different realm of problems. So yeah.
I like this one too, because it has free time on here twice, but one is a screen time and one is a not a screen time. So it really helps to define and help lessen that amount of screen time, because they're already on screens for school all day long. So how do we, that's been a real difficulty for many people, not just families with kids with autism, but many people.
And again, this takes away the, well, mom told me that I can't have screen time. And it's just in black and white, and here are the rules for the day. Here's your schedule. So there are a lot of different ways that a schedule can be interpreted. And there's been kids that have been having very, well, they just don't understand the written word. They may not understand the visual correspondence of a picture. So we wanted to show you an object schedule, and an object schedule would be, well, for sure, the first one is mostly the tactile. What it does is it has some kind of representation of what that is. So whether it's in the beginning, they might have a roll of toilet paper, and that means that you need to go to the bathroom. A ball may mean that you get to go outside and play ball for a while. There's just lots of different ways to interpret that, but you have to make sure that it's always the same. So we would, I know at school, we've had things from a ball that takes you to the gym, or a leaf, or something that would represent outside, or something, maybe a cup that would bring you to the kitchen so that you're going to eat lunch. So whatever it is, you need to be consistent with that. And it needs to make sense to the person that's using it, because the whole idea of a schedule is that a kid can use it independently, and it tells them where they're going to go and what they're going to do next. So as you work across that picture, you see that there are some objects, and then objects with photos, and objects with the word, and you can combine those to help them get to that next level. And it's okay if they don't have the ability to do that. We just need to find a type of schedule that is meaningful to them. So if you have a kiddo that's on an object schedule, whether they're 3 or they're 13, it makes no difference. It just, the thing is, you have to make sure that it makes sense to them.
Just one thing, looking at this slide about the toilet paper rolls, because I remember this, Jan, from training along the way, leave a piece of toilet paper on those toilet paper rolls so they
Right.
really understand what that object is for. So
That's right. And now you can find little miniatures, which is pretty awesome, because we found lots of miniatures along the way to represent things.
Erasers, they're miniature erasers. A lot of them are that.
Yeah.
This is one that we highly recommend. It's easy to use. It's the first then schedules. First put the toys away, then blow bubbles, or first, next, and then is a little bit step up, one more step in there. People, this is not, and not all of these strategies are for all kids. They will work with all kids. So the first then, I often use this with my grandsons. Yeah, first we do this, and then we're going to do this, and it makes sense to kids. So having that visual there, the schedule itself just has to be like one, like it can be just like this. I don't know if you can see that or not, probably not. It's just paper clips on there with first then. You can write it. So it's just a real easy schedule to work with.
Yeah, that's what, back in the olden days when Sue and I first started, we didn't have all these pictures from the internet. There was no Google searches. So we did our best and did some line drawings or took Polaroid camera pictures. And you know what? It worked. So, you know, we're one to say you don't have to be high tech. It doesn't have to look beautiful. It just has to make sense. So looking at, this is one for schedule of the day, and this was made up from line drawings, from regular photos. And basically what it is just telling him what to do from top to bottom. I have to do this. And as you look over at the right-hand side, there is a done box. So I get up in the morning, and whatever you have to do in the morning, you take your jammies off, whatever, there's a routine to that. Let's say your child already has that routine down. then they can check that off and they can feel good about that. So then you can go on to the next thing. If you see down at the bottom, it has the iPad, and that's really what they're working towards or working for. So, excuse me. So all the way from getting up in the morning to doing some work, to doing some stretching, maybe eating breakfast. But then you see on number 5, there's kind of like a red mark over there, which it means, oh, you don't have to do that. It's not happening today. There's a change in your schedule. And actually, a change in schedule is really, really good to show them. I mean, first of all, you have to establish a schedule, but then it's good because we know that many of the kids with autism are very rigid. They might know a routine very, very well. And when you throw something in there that changes, they don't like that. Not at all. So the more that we can incorporate that, even once a day, to say, oh, that's been changed, or once every couple of days, that'll help them in the long run.
I think something else you can take from this schedule is that, because Jan asked me, what's picture number 3? I had to work on, that's a cat stretching. So if your child, if you have cats in your house, that's a very appropriate one to use, because kids get that, they identify with that, and it just makes it a little more fun. So there's just a lot of things you can do. Sometimes just putting a schedule on the person's favorite color of paper makes it easier for them to follow, because they like orange or they like pink or whatever, and that just makes it more personal.
And put it so that they can put it somewhere that it's at eye level, not that it's way up high, because the whole idea is you want them to either have it in a notebook or down on a table or someplace that they can see it and they can manipulate it. One of the things, go ahead.
So this one is just for exercise, and this is a schedule that I created for a 2nd grader in school a few years back, because she was just walking around the building, but she needed more than that. So she helped with making up these items on the schedule, and actually the final one, we switched something out. She got one of those body bags that you could stretch around in, and so she liked to dance around in that. So we added that into the schedule, but it just gives them lessens their anxiety, gives them a lot of different choices, and then, you know, uses their interests that they like. But putting that exercise, there's some
it's an evidence
out. Go ahead.
Right. The National Association has said this exercise is a evidence-based practice now, knowing that does decrease behaviors, helps in the well-being of a person. So exercise every day should be put into some kind of a work system or a schedule. So one thing I wanted to mention is that exercise was on the schedule. So, but what do I do to exercise? I mean, some kids already have a routine, but we would call this like a work system. So you could put that in a folder that says exercise on it. And then that's what Maya would need to do for her exercise. So again, it's just a step-by-step. Here's what I need to do.
And a lot of classrooms lately have gone into that Go Noodle, or some of those, they're breaking up their day, stopping the kids, the whole class is doing exercise. So those are things you could draw on from home too, just to put into the day if you're looking for some ideas for exercise.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good things out there now with the mindfulness and yoga. And I know our AEA is going to be putting on what is it called? Mindfully moving, which I thought was interesting. It's good. It's a new research-based, which is she's doing at the end of the month, and so it incorporates a lot of those things that we're talking about right here. All right, now teaching change, as we just said. Hopefully, it's going to increase their flexibility, and reduce the anxiety, reduce meltdowns, and help with the transitions. So we have a website down there from the Indiana Resource, which is a great, very good resource to look at. And the reason that or one way that you could teach change is maybe by having we used to have like a lightning bolt or we would have a green square or green triangle. So that's gonna, again, present to the child, oh, there's something coming up that's not the same. So you're gonna use a symbol to show a preferred change, like, oh, there's no math today, or some kids actually on snow days, they still have to go to school. Some don't have to go to school. So it depends upon your district. That would be a great thing to put on right away. Hey, there's a great change here today, no school. And that means you really don't have any virtual school either. So that could be a way that you could show that, because we know sometimes kids would rather go to school than, at least some kids, than not, because that, again, that's their routine. So the number 2, once a student accepts changes for preferred activities, then you can use a neutral change. So instead of math, we're going to do reading. So this is kind of giving you a step-by-step. And then, of course, then the last one is a non-preferred change. What I would suggest is, to begin with, have something that maybe would be a preferred change if you're going to show that. Or even a neutral. You don't want to put something in that they don't like or is not preferred, because they have to learn the process. Just because you show an icon does not mean that they know it. Just because you give them a schedule does not mean that they're going to know how to follow that. So everything that we're talking about today has to be taught. And once it's taught and implemented, then that's the way that they can become more successful.
I think the article down there from Indiana Resource really gives a nice idea. I think that's one I'd send to your teacher, Tammy, that maybe would be helpful to help them understand the whole process. And I think another part to go along with this is, when we as adults have changes, how we react to that, and talking about, oh, there's a change today, that's okay. This happened to make that change. So it's how we react to that. And then when you're working with your child or a student on doing this, when they handle that change well, that reinforcement piece that comes right then. Oh, I saw you do this. You knew there's a change. You didn't know it was coming, but you are okay. This is how you reacted to it, and give them all that information. So it's a really important idea to teach. Very important.
Right.
For all of us. Okay, ways to modify simple learning. We're going to go into this. The pause card. So the pause card, we don't even know exactly where it came from, but it's a visual support, and it's a miracle for many kids. So when you say to your kids, stop doing that, oftentimes you get a lot of meltdowns, a lot of really backlash from the kids, because for many kids, stop means it will never come back into my life again, that this is something I'll never see. But when you use that pause symbol, or the pause and the pause word with it, kids are understanding that. They pause their video games, they pause their movies on TV. They know that means it's still there, and there will be a time that I can return. So it makes those transitions easier, and children get it. And we just talked about why they get it, because they know it will return in my life once again. So pause can be can make up a whole bunch of pause cards, put them wherever you need them, take them in the car with you, and you use it, because it really does make a difference. And transitions are hard for many kids, and so this is just one tool to help with that.
The other way that it's really used is, let's say you have your child that's having free time in there on their either their computer or their iPad or whatever, and that the bell goes off, time's done, and oh, it's time to pause it. And so that means that you got to finish doing something that you really like. But it isn't that you need to take that away from them. You might put a little X on their desk and say, this is where it goes, or a basket, or whatever, so they can still see it. And that goes along with what Sue said. They know that they're going to be able to come back to it. So it's just on pause, although you might stop you're going to stop the video, but you're pausing it knowing you get to come back to it. Okay. A timer, I think this is one of another little miracle that we found. We have used this thousands of times over the years, and it is actually amazing how well it works. So in the one on the left-hand side, again, it's a piece of hardstock. Yep, there Sue has it there. It doesn't need Velcro. You can even use, I don't know, are those stickers? Were they stickers, Sue?
No, these are you can use stickers. These are pictures I copied off the internet and just laminated.
Right, because you're going to use what the kids are really interested in. So this little person was interested in tigers, or I remember making one for my grandson which reminded me because of the bathtub, and he loved tractors. So I just got pictures or stickers of tractors, put them on some hardstock, cut them out, put them on underneath there, and I'd say, oh, you've got four tractors, and then you're going to have to get out of the bathtub, or you're going to have to go to the bathtub, whatever. And then same thing. Then you take away it. Oh, you've got 2 left. You've got 3 left, whatever. And Sue's showing it. That's how easy it is. And then you would have, or let's say he's playing and then he has to go to the bathtub. But in my case, when I was making it, he loved to play in the bathtub. So then then you have to put on your jammies. So you can do that with kids. When we were doing training, we would do that during snack time, because sometimes kids don't know how long snack is. So we would have that 5-point timer. The beauty of 5-point timers is that you can stick it in your pocket. You can take it anywhere you want. There's no batteries needed. And you know what? The kids really get it. On many of the trainings that we've done, we always like to have a takeaway. What was something that you learned that you really thought was beneficial? And I have to say the 5-point timer always came up numerous times, because they would have an opportunity to see it actually working with the students. And yeah, we felt like that's pretty amazing.
I have a quick story here. So I used a timer, not the tiger one, but I used actually it was this one that has the clock faces on it, the middle one on there. So I used it with a middle school student that I needed to interview and talk with. And I laid it on the table and I said, usually you don't give the students access to the timer because they can whip through it. But in this case, I said, I'm going to give you the strip and you can remove the pictures, the clocks at your will as we talk, because then I gave him that chance to be in control more of that situation. And he looked at me and said, where has this been my whole life? Yeah. So, I mean, you can just use it in a lot of different ways. And it is probably one of the #1 things that we recommend that and works very well for almost any kid.
Mm-hmm. Or how old they are. I think it's, yeah, great.
Jan.
Okay.
You? Okay.
I think it can be. As far as making things visual for kids, you see that things are highlighted, and those are the important things. So looking at what are the demands, what do they have to do? I have to complete all the multiplication. I have to check the answer. I have to draw a circle around the answer that you missed. So it's just, again, usually it's the direction. Sometimes kids forget to put their name on things. And so for a certain kid, we might have to put that on there. I love how hard was this work? And then ask mom to check your work. Again, it's just something very, very visual. You don't want to be highlighting the whole page, or that's not going to make sense to them. You only want to highlight what's the important, because so many kids say, I didn't know I had to do that. Well, if they learn that they look at the highlights, that's what's the important piece, and that they can follow that. Again, you're teaching a routine. You're teaching them to learn how to look at those visual cues.
I think this is nice too, because they gave plenty of room for the work to be done, which is space is, you see how big the numbers are and everything. So it really gives them that opportunity to put all their work where it should be.
Right.
It was my turn that time. Okay. So writing assignments, This is from a book called I Hate to Write, which has a lot of good ideas in it. This is something you can easily use at school or home. So what do I do? There's a start button. You're going to write a paragraph about littering. And many times that's the only direction given to kids. And then you see the frustration, the anxiety, you see a lot of things come up. How much do I have to do? So you have to write 6 sentences, use the capitals and punctuation, and included in that is each sentence must have a 1 adjective to start increasing the length of the sentences and making them more interesting. And then what do you do when you're finished? Give the finished paragraph to your parent, and then you can work on the computer for 20 minutes. It's all there in a very simple form. The I Hate to Write book, and there's the next slide is also from that book. So we'll just jump ahead to that one.
Wait a minute, go
Whoops.
back to that because I want to say something about that, please.
Sorry. No, oh no, now we're in trouble. Okay, guys, hang
Well, you
on.
don't have to go back, but I want to
Okay.
talk about that because I know each of you guys have the PowerPoint also. This is probably one of the most important slides that I think, because it talks about, it indicates the 4 questions, or at least 3 questions that need to be answered for every single assignment. And that is, what do I do? How much do I have to do? What do I do when I'm finished? Or how do I know that I'm finished? And then the last thing is, what are you going to do next? But if a teacher or you can put it into that kind of a visual format, that would be really, really, I think, I know it would be beneficial. It's beneficial for all students to know how to answer those questions.
And I'm very sorry that my tech skills aren't up to going backwards here. So the social stories and the next one on the slide.
The next one was video modeling.
Okay.
Sue and Jan, there's also a question.
Okay, and I figured it out, so go ahead.
Online, there is no paper. It goes each problem at a time. So if the answer is wrong, then you get it wrong and no one can check it before you turn in your work. Ooh, yeah, suggestions on how to frame that up. So
that might be one we need to research a little bit. So I don't know if, is it I suppose it depends on who's in charge of the online. Is it one of the programs that's just coming out, you know, like for everybody, or is it one the teacher's giving out? Tammy, is that your question?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a program. Yeah.
Oh, it's a program. Yeah, I don't know. We'll think about that one.
Would he write that? Wait a minute. Amy says, would he write the problem on a whiteboard? I'm hoping that he's writing the problem somewhere, so at least you can tell what the answer is, or how he got to that. That's the problem. I think a lot of kids, well, there's 2 problems. One is that kids don't like to show their work because they say they already know it, or they're doing it wrong, but we can't figure out where the problem was. I know I had one family that I was working out that the teacher would give the parents the key. So they knew what those answers were before they were completed. And that really, really helped, because some of the kids, they're taking some advanced level, well, not even advanced, but they learn differently than maybe you learned how to do that math. And we know that there's a certain way to do the math, but it might not be the way that you know how to do it. So that's what it really, really makes a difference. Yeah. So Tammy's saying, so when he gets it wrong, then he freaks out, no aid. So I have to stop working to write for him. His fine motor skills are poor and he can't read his writing. Yeah, that is really a very difficult thing. Maybe,
well,
go ahead.
Yeah, is that addressed in his IEP under accommodations? Because I would probably really work with the teacher on that, how that can be modified, because that's causing a big problem.
Yeah, I would think so too. And maybe even being able to get you some different kind of paper that he can write on, so that they're bigger squares, so he can put too. Yeah, I would agree. I think for kids using or having fine motor problems and having difficulty with that, and then putting it back on the computer is that's a hard skill. Or a calculator. Yeah, Amy said a calculator to check. Absolutely. It just depends on what
Yes.
they're asking for, I guess. Yeah.
I'm
I've
gonna
had kids say, I don't
go
know what
back.
they're
Okay.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
video
so
modeling.
video modeling is another one of, Scott Bellini is the person that developed this strategy, and as it's been another really important one for people to use, and it's easier to use than pictures sometimes. It's evidence-based practice that's been used in autism for, I don't know, probably maybe 10 years now. I don't forget the
Yeah.
first time we saw Scott Bellini, but so you could use it for a lot of things like riding a bike, playing trains, hitting a baseball, cleaning your room, how to sit, video modeling, how do you sit in your desk while you're doing your work. Just making mac and cheese is one that comes to my mind, because in the olden days when we were doing structured teaching, I remember writing out a work
Yes,
thing for making mac and cheese. I had 23 steps on it. Well, that's crazy because it's hard to make mac and cheese and check everything off. But if you kids can watch this and see how to do it and click back on it and follow through, and it's so much easier to do. I know it works because I learned from video modeling how to make my kayak go straight, what I was doing wrong when I was paddling. So I know that it works.
And actually that is the YouTube. That is the beauty of YouTube, is the video modeling piece. I have to say, it's the best if you can have your own child doing those kind of things. But man, to be able to watch somebody else do that, that's what it's all about. I use this actually with my grandson to teach him how to ride he had a little bike with no wheels, or without any pedals, and a strider bike, and just could not get that. And you try to tell them and you're using the words, and that was the number one problem. And that's the problem with kids with autism. They're getting bombarded with all this language that we think maybe they understand, but they're really not for some reason. And so they're trying so hard to do what you want them to do, but they don't get it. So I remember looking up on YouTube how to ride a strider bike, and there was a little guy about the same age, and I showed that to Hayden, and oh my gosh, he got right on that bike and he took off. Again, it seems like it's a little too simple, but it's a evidence-based practice, as Sue said, and it works. It really does work if it's used the right way. So we'd encourage you. It's not like for doing math work. Here's how you do your math work. But it could be used in saying, here's what doing your work looks like. So he's sitting at the table. He's got everything ready. His feet are on the floor and he's ready to learn. Maybe it's a ready to learn video that you'd be doing. And you want to show them the right way, not the wrong way, but the right way to do things.
And I know we're coming. Chris, can I ask you a quick question? Can we go overtime a little bit?
You sure can.
Okay, thank you. Going to a new place. So this is really good when you're taking your kids out to go someplace different, which we aren't really doing during COVID, but we will again. So if you can go ahead of time and just make a little video of what it looks like so they can watch it. Students transitioning from elementary to middle school, or middle school to high school. I've had parents go in the summertime, take a video of the whole school, and so they can watch it. One kid watched it over and over again all summer, and it helped to really lessen his anxiety a lot. So it has a lot of different uses. We're going to jump into social stories and social narratives. On this slide, there's just a lot of resources that you can go to and find ones that are already prepared and maybe use them to model one off of yours.
So I'm just wondering if, because a lot of times people know that it's going to be about an hour long. I don't know how much longer we want to do, if we want to, right after social stories, kind of stop, and then we can, the next time, follow up on it, excuse me, along with questions.
Okay. So this is just one example of a social story called Missing Friends from the Indiana Resource Center. It uses pictures and words to tell their story and provides that information to help, which lessens the anxiety. For all of us, when we know what's going to happen, it's like going to get my COVID shot the other day. You know, I was pretty anxious because I didn't know if it was inside or outside, or where I was going to sit, if there's going to be a lot of people. It would have helped me to have a little video of Walgreens to show me what was exactly going to happen. So anything that we can do to help with reducing the anxiety is great.
Well, Sue, you could have looked on the ASI website, or ASA, the Autism Society of America. They have a great COVID site on there, and it has lots of social stories on there. So it's very good.
And there's a lot of resources out there.
Yep.
This is just another example of a social story that talks about learning at home right now. We just put a couple of examples up there. Another one, because I had to put this one in, pooping. It's a great one. We all need it. You all need it at some time in your life with your young children. So Kansas ASD has a lot of really great ones ready to use.
The thing that I think most people and teachers also is that they might have a written social story with all words on it, and then kids can't read and they have a language problem. So please, please keep that into consideration when you're writing a social story. You can be using visuals, you can use pictures, you can use line drawings. It does not have to be all in words. What the words could be helping with, like with the Sometimes I Poop one, is that it's helping the adult know what that story says. So it's also going to have pictures in it because that's how old the little one is that's using it. So make sure that the social story is something that the kids can understand.
Okay. So shall we stop here, Jan? And
I don't know. What do you guys think? I just want to be respectful of people that are also listening. I don't care.
you guys go, how many slides are left?
About 10.
Okay.
I guess we could finish if you want.
Okay. Okay, we'll go. Incentives, and I think people, you understand about incentives. None of us go to work. When we love our jobs, we'd like to get that paycheck. So we all have that incentive to work for, and it's important for our kids too. So linking it to the interest, having it be accessible, cost effective, that's important. So there's ideas on here. We're going to go over a couple of different ideas right now.
So just remember, yeah. Whoops, sorry. Remembering that what is reinforcing to you probably isn't reinforcing to your student or to your child, and that's one thing that we really try to make a difference in when we're talking with classroom teachers. Is that just because one child thinks it's reinforcing to have a pizza party at the end of the week does not mean everybody likes pizza or everybody likes being in a group like that. So it has to be tailored to a student, your own student, which is, what you're seeing here is that dinosaur, using something that is engaging to them. They love dinosaurs or puzzles or choices or whatever. So you put together that writing, math, reading, then it's going to make a dinosaur altogether. So when he finishes it, that's what it's going to do. And then most likely he's going to be able to play with his dinosaurs.
So gold mining, I have to tell this story. There was a student that I had that he and his dad sifted for gold at home in their own little gold. And so gold was a big deal. So all I did was go out and get P-rock out of my back patio or whatever. I don't know where I'm showing this, but anyway, sprayed it with some gold spray paint, put it in this little pouch, like a gold miner's pouch. And each time he completed a task or had a behavior that we were trying to reinforce, he got a piece of gold, and it worked like a dream.
You bet.
Did it work forever? No, you're continually just like we get a raise, you're continually changing, well, hopefully we get a raise, continually upping that and changing it so that stays current and enticing for that child.
So like in this one, that so if you do your math, you do 5 problems, you get an I. So what this kiddo is working for is the iPad minutes. And so if he finishes everything, it adds up to 10 minutes of iPad time. It can be as simple as that. But again, if you look at it, it's very visual. I have to do my math, I have to do my reading, I have to do my jumping jacks, and I have to hang up my shirts. And then when I'm done with that, I get my iPad. Very simple.
And if your child can't read, you can just cut up 4 squares of a picture of an iPad, and each time they complete that, you could give it they put a piece of that puzzle together. So there's a lot of different adaptations you can use. Want to talk, this is our last section on natural learning opportunities. So everyone is doing schoolwork at home now that's virtually learning, and that's important. But what's also important is now we have some time for some natural learning opportunities. So we just wanted parents to think about the fact that even when you're doing these other things, your child's still learning, and they're learning a lot of skills that they need for life. So there's some listed on here. And you're learning reading through reading a recipe. We've got, let me take you to the pizza. So these are examples of what you learn in different game or things. Jan, go ahead.
Well, actually that's playing games. Man, there's a lot of different things, and from playing games to doing a recipe, cooking, setting the table. I mean, there's constantly, you can be asking questions about, or they're reading it. They don't realize they're reading, but they are reading using a game or knowing their colors or their math skills. Another thing that it really helps with is helping them learn to lose the right way or not being boastful when you win. There's lots of things throughout the entire day that you can work on. And again, there's, I think if you just kind of think out of the box, it just is very helpful.
So here's one example. What can you learn from making pizza? A life skill of preparing a meal. Math, how many pieces do you need for how many people are going to be eating it? Shapes involved, the cooking time, reading the directions on the box. Science, why does cheese melt? Why does dough rise? History, where's the country of origin? How did it get its name? You've covered a whole day of curriculum on making pizza here. You've covered every subject that they're going to talk about. And then you get to eat it, so you get your reinforcement. So if you, like Jan said, thinking out of the box can just really lead to a lot of good learning activities.
Even when kids don't know what to write about, think about, they say, the teacher might say, well, you can write about anything you want. Oh man, that's just too much. So if you know that your child really likes pizza, or they really like dinosaurs, or they really like whatever, then you can go ahead and incorporate that. Let's say, let's do two sentences about what ingredients are needed on the pizza. And I know you as parents there, that's really sometimes hard to think out of that box, and maybe the teacher should be doing that. But hopefully, if you guys work together, this could be really beneficial, and it's going to take that I don't know what to do or the meltdowns out of it.
This is one of our last slides. This is a book that I've used for quite a few years now, and it's called Life and Love: Positive Strategies for Autistic Adults. It's good for all parents of kids of all ages, because it's going to help you plan ahead to what your child needs to learn. And for those adults who have autism, it gives them ideas about how to address different areas in their life. So this is one book that I would recommend for everybody to take a look at.
And we thought this would be a good one to end with, is that you need to be gentle with yourself, that many of these strategies and ideas that have worked for your family, please share. And these with us, if you're able to, you can build onto our resource list. So if there's anything that you found, we would love to know that. There's so many resources out there, and it's really hard to know which one to go to. And then on the next slide too, you're going to be able to see some very credible ones. So just, I guess, be careful what you look at. And you notice that numerous times we will say it's evidence-based. We really believe that you need to use evidence-based practices because they are proven, and it's just the best way to go. So, Sue?
So that's it for today. And if you have questions, put them in the chat room. We can take a look at them next time. And if you're watching later on, please send in your questions, and please join us for the next session. So.
Yeah, and that's what we really wanted to do next time, is that we will be looking at any of the questions that come in. Try to be very specific about those questions, and that's how we're actually going to get our information for the next one. It will not be next week, it'll be the week after. So that is the 23rd.
23rd. Yep.
At noon again.
Yep.
Yep, at noon.
Thank you. And also, everyone that's registered for this session will get a copy of the recording emailed to them as well, but so they have an opportunity to either watch it again or watch it for the first time.
Great.
Great. Are there any other questions before we end today?
You're welcome.
You are so welcome.
A lot of thank yous.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thanks to Sue and Jan, and we'll see everyone weeks for the part 2. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Yep. Bye-bye. Stay warm.
Yeah.